What's up, my friends? It's good to see you. How are you doing? I mean that. All right, so here we go. Fabricius wants to have victory through legitimate war. I'm starting right here because I think in my first period class we stopped after, or before even the third one. Before we'd even finished the third one. So maybe I should go ahead and do this one too. Sorry about the glare, but you guys should be opened up to this page in your workbook. Just checking that out, making sure that you guys get that done. And yeah, remember, if you have some of these that are not given to you with a lot of space in your workbook, move over to a blank sheet of paper so that you can get these done, okay? Very important that you guys are working those steps out, really challenging yourself to remember endings, remember what case functions are, and just all that kind of stuff, your verb endings and things like that. Who's the subject, noun, all that. Make sure you're doing that on another sheet of paper. Give yourself the chance to really think out onto the paper. That's the best thing you can do for Latin. Be talking to yourself out loud. Who cares if they think you're crazy? It's dope. You're doing Latin, dog. All right, so here we go. This one right here, let me just go ahead and say it quickly because we did a lot of it in first period, but you probably forgot. So they ought. This one's a pretty intense verb phrase because really this whole thing is the verb phrase. All right, they is the subject noun doing the verb, but this is an adverb. Not is not a verb, it's an adverb. All right, to give. So remember, if you see this word to next to a verb, it's not a preposition. All right, not an indirect dot. That's not that to. Remember, English is dumb. If to is next to a verb, it's an infinitive. All right, and the reason why an infinitive is in this sentence is because anytime you see this verb, ought, must, should, owe, any of those four possible translations from debera, that verb will never be in a sentence without an infinitive somewhere. Another verb idea completing that thought. So they ought not to give the bad man a large reward. All right, now this part's tricky because subject, noun, verb, direct object is the nicest and neatest and simplest pattern of an English sentence. Subject, noun, verb, direct object. But it doesn't always have to be that way. You've got to continue asking yourself the question, who's doing the verb? What is the verb? And who is directly impacted by the verb? Who or what is directly impacted? What is receiving that action? All right? So you read the sentence, they ought not to give the bad man a large reward. What is being given in this sentence? What is being given? Or in this sentence, not given. What is not given? They are not giving the bad man to something. They are not giving, oh, sorry, that was kind of crazy. They are not giving the bad man to something. They are not giving a reward. So the reward is your direct object. All right, and large is going with that. All right, let me slow down because some of you guys are probably like, wait, what? But listen, think about the sentence. They ought not to give what? A large reward. Do you see that? The men, and unfortunately freaking trends, it's giving, and like, shut up. I'm sorry, that was mean. I didn't mean that. I just don't like that phrase. It's giving. All right, so get that out of your head. Get that giving out of your head, okay? They ought not to give the direct object, meaning a reward, to the bad men. Do you guys see how that's basically the same sentence? They ought not to give the large reward to the bad men. But this is just the simpler way for us as English speakers to bring an indirect object into the sentence. They ought not to give the bad men a large reward. So that's what's going on here. So the sentence is going to have debent at the end because that's they ought. Debera is where you get the stem from because that's the verb ought, must, should, owe. Debera, knock off the ra, add nt. Nt means they. So there's the whole verb. They ought. Not, let's just go ahead and keep working in order, backwards order. Not to give. The infinitive here is dara. That's the second principal part. Do, dara. Remember, there's no macron over that a. The way I made sure that you guys knew that was by putting that thing there, but you do not need to put that thing there. I even saw that some of you guys, when you were marking each other's like vocab quizzes and stuff, you were like, oh, you didn't put the short symbol. You don't need to put the short symbol. That's just me telling you there's not going to be a macron over that a with this infinitive. So it's just going to look like that, dara. It looks like dare, but it's not. It's dara. Second principal part. It's the infinitive of do, dara. All right? Meaning to give. So that's all you got to do. That word right there in the infinitive. Do, dara, dedi, datum. That means to give. Right there. Right as it's given to you in the glossary. Every single second principal part translates to do something. To give. To run. To swim. To love. To sail. All right? It's how I tell you to translate verbs. Is translate them like the second principal part. That's the infinitive. All right, I'm harping on this too long. All right, they ought not to give. That's it. They ought not to give. Whole verb phrase. I like to put my verb phrases at the end. All right, the main thing that matters is that you put the verb, the real verb that has the subject noun ending at the end. That's what I want you guys to really do. If you wanted to put non dar at the beginning, sweet, go for it. All right, but I like to put the whole verb phrase at the end. The bad man. That's going to be wiro, malo. Because bad man is the indirect object. I don't know why I erased that. It's the indirect object, so it's got to be dative, singular. Dative, indirect object. And it's got to be singular. And weir comes from R-E-O-O, comes from that family, and that's the dative singular ending. Weir, weary, weiro. All right? And so bad, which is malo, it takes malus. You remember you learned it malus, mala, malum. All right, it takes these endings, us, e, o, o. So it's going to look like wiro malo, like that. All right, now I'm running out of space. Large reward. Reward here has to be the direct object. You learn the word reward as premium, primii, neuter. So it takes e, o, and we need the accusative singular, because accusative direct object. Accusative direct object. So its accusative singular is So it would be premium, and then large is going with reward. So it has to take its neuter endings, magnum, magni, magno, magnum. So it's also going to say at the end. All right? Sweet. That took a long time. But I hope that, because like seriously, this is it. This is where you guys are at in the Latin. This is what I want you guys to be able to do. This is everything. This is everything you've learned. All right? So it's okay to take a long time on these sentences. That's what we're doing here. That's what your test tomorrow will do. Little bitty questions about each of these things. You're going to have vocab questions. You're going to have ending questions. Make sure you know your noun endings. Make sure you know the difference between a masculine, feminine, and neuter noun and what set of endings they're going to take. Make sure you remember your pain words that look feminine, but they're truly masculine. You know, things like that. It's all very, very important that you guys are taking every chapter that we learn, vocab from each chapter, endings from each chapter, and you're reviewing them all while you're doing stuff like this. All right, you'll naturally do it if you do what I said at the very beginning. If you have that sheet of paper out next to you, if you do that, you're golden. If you're really going through it, okay, what kind of gender is this? How is it going to relate to the adjective? Is this the subject noun? How do I tell? Subject noun does the verb. It's not really doing the verb. What's it doing? Subject noun does the verb. Direct object receives the verb. Is it receiving the verb? Give a reward, reward. It's receiving the action, reward. So that's the direct. If you're doing that kind of stuff out loud, I got to talk out loud. I'm like a psycho. I don't care, dude. If it gets me to understand it, and if it helps you understand it, talk out loud. Talk to one of your friends. Do these exercises together with your friends over FaceTime or something. I don't care. It's just helpful to do it out loud. It's a language, dude. Talk about what's going on. All right? Really, seriously. It's so fun. It's so sick. It's hard. This is new for you guys, but this is so sick, dude. It's so sick. All right. Let's do this one. Subject noun, wants. Fabricius wants. So that's the verb. Whoa, to have. Infinitive. All right, very good. What's the thing he wants to have? What's receiving the verb? Victory. And then we have through legitimate war. All right, through legitimate war. So, this is interesting. All right? Fabricius, this is just his name, so let's just leave it right here. Fabricius. All right? But he is a what? Fabricius is a he. Fabricius wants. So one man, he wants. So that's third person singular. And there's the infinitive going with the verb. You can't parse an infinitive. What's a direct object? Accusative. How much victory? Singular. Through is a preposition, all right? Legitimate war, that's describing war, so that's an adjective. And then war is the thing that is the object of this preposition. Now, through, there are a lot of prepositions that can mean through in Latin, a lot. One of them is per, like permeate, all right, that's through. But I think here, thinking of the ones that you guys have had. I think we're gonna do in, all right? In legitimate war. Fabricius wants to have victory in legitimate war. And I think that we could even do in plus the accusative or in plus the ablative. So either one would actually make sense here. This one is gonna be singular though, either way, all right? It could be accusative or ablative here. And then legitimate is just gonna take on whatever you give war. So let's just say we'll do in plus the accusative. Legitimate is just gonna be justum bellum. All right, and then you would just change those endings for the ablative to be in justo bello. All right, I don't like that they gave you a preposition that you've never had before. That's kind of dinglehorny. Maybe they did. Maybe I'm just forgetting that it's one of the possible translations for like odd or in or whatever. But I wish that they had just done one that you like normally do. But anyways, that's that one. All right. Oh, I didn't finish, did I? Wolt, the verb would be wolt. All right. To have. So what's the infinitive of to have? It's habera. All right, Fabricius wants to have, and he wants to have victory, which would be victoriam, just with that ending right there. Once again, that's another word that you didn't have. I don't like that they keep on giving you guys that. Victoria, victoriae, feminine. All right, so that's a word that you guys have not had, so you would need to put it in the direct object, singular, accusative singular, victoriam. All right, and then legitimate war would be exactly what I just said, either in justum bellum or in justo bello. All right, because that's kind of a free-flowing one that you guys haven't had yet. All right, so that's kind of a good little tester, I guess. But you guys are doing great. I'm trying to go faster now because I took so long doing literally the first one I did, but I think it'll all be helpful to you. All right. So next one. Oh, very important. This is a very, very important one that we do. Fabricius orders armed men to walk with the deserter to the camp of Pyrrhus. Now, I can think of like 5 or 6 of you who are probably starting to have like a little anxiety right now. Some of you are like, okay, let's just get into it, let's go. But I want to talk directly to those of you who see a lot of things and you start to feel things in your gut. When you see something like this up here on the board or in your workbook, you start to feel like really, really nasty feelings in your gut. All right? I want every single one of you, no matter what you're doing, even if you are one of those who thinks like, oh, I can do it, take a second, just breathe. Just breathe. Lean back in your chair. Seriously. Some of you guys are probably just looking like, when's he going to start doing? Seriously, put your pencil down. Take a deep breath. You know how to do all of this. And if you don't, that's okay. All right? Just take a second and breathe. All right? All these are just a bunch of chunks of even smaller sentences just put into a bunch of other chunks. Just giving more description to a scenario. And it's like what I told you guys in both my classes today, both first and sixth period. This is so cool to be able to be like, you know what? I understand what that sentence is saying, but I get to go now into another dimension of proving that every single thing in that sentence exists together for a certain reason. Whoa. That's like life bringing light to everything, dude. That's crazy. So, breathe. I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to show you how to do it. And we're going to get it together. And that's so sick. All right, so let's go. Fabricius orders. So remember, English is nice. We like to put these two things at the beginning. It's just, it doesn't always happen at the beginning, but we like to put these things at the beginning. All right? Fabricius is your subject noun. What's he doing? He's ordering. Now, this is where I want to pause for a second. Y'all learned this verb, this chapter. This is eubeo, eubeira, eusi, eusum. All right? And there was a lot to learn with eubeo. There were 2 things that came with the meaning. The meaning is to order. Eubeira literally by itself means to order. But that doesn't exist, kind of like how debeira to owe or must or should or ought doesn't exist without an infinitive, this verb, eubeira, doesn't exist without something in the accusative with an infinitive. So that's how I gave it to you guys in the Quizlet. That's why I wanted you to learn it, to order somebody in the accusative to do something in the infinitive. You guys are seeing now that it has that structure, it has that order, and you can expect that going forward. All right? Fabricius orders whom? Who does he order here? Armed men. What's the actual noun here? Men. What's armed doing? It's just describing them, so it's an adjective. It's going to be whatever men is parsed-wise, gender, number, and case. It's going to be the same gender, number, and case as men because it's describing men. All right? Here we go. Here's our verb. To walk. That's an infinitive. With the deserter. With the deserter. We haven't done this preposition in a while. With. Talks about location. With the deserter. Position. Preposition. All right? With the deserter. That's the thing that is the object of that preposition. To the camp. To the camp. Is that this too? Is this an infinitive? Tina, I was telling you about your gut thing. All right? To the camp. Is this an infinitive talking about a verb? No. This is a preposition. This is the preposition to. To the camp. Towards the camp. And you guys can know that. Orders the armed men to walk. This is a verb of motion. So this is not the infinitive, the indirect object or the infinitive to. Remember, the indirect object is when, like, I give something to something. All right? This is the preposition to because your verb has motion to it. Motion. To walk to the camp. So that's the preposition to. All right? And this is the object of that preposition. All right? Now, this one, genitive of the, it has the article adjective the in there when I teach you guys that little chant. But this is a person's name. Remember what I said? You don't need to put an article adjective next to someone's name. Like, you remember I said the Anna? You wouldn't say, oh, that's the Anna over there. It's like, what? All right? Yeah, maybe Kanye would say that about himself. Be like, I'm the Kanye. But, like, we're not all Kanye. So, of Pyrrhus. You don't have to say of the Pyrrhus. But this is still what case? Of. This is genitive. So what does that make Pyrrhus? This is a possessive noun. He possesses the camp. It's his camp. So that's possessive. All right? So, a lot of stuff, guys. But look at what you just did. Look at what you just did. That's sick. You understand how sick that is? That's sick. You know everything that's going on in this sentence. Okay? And you guys are like, yeah, well, I could have just read it. I'm sure you could have. But I hope, and some of you guys aren't going to listen to what I'm saying, but some of you guys are listening to what I'm saying. That's all I care about. I hope you see how awesome it is that you can do that. That's all I'm saying. Some of you don't care. And if you guys are struggling, like you're saying, like, oh, I couldn't do that by myself. I can only do that because you're here. Sweet. You're in my Latin class. That's why we're all here. I don't expect you guys to all be able to do that perfectly right now. And I'm not going to give you something this hard on the test. This just has everything in it that would be on the test. All right? You guys are doing great. You understand? I'm taking so long to do this. All right, so here we go. Subject noun, we know it's got to be nominative. How many Fabriciuses are there? Of course, there's only one, so it's nominative singular. Here's his verb. Remember, Fabricius is a he. So he orders, he, she, it. All right, that's the T. So that's third person singular. T means he, she, it. The third one down, O-S-T in the singular column. All right, men is the direct object, accusative direct object, but it's men. So it's accusative plural. So guess what? You just take that, you draw an arrow, be like, oh, armed has to be accusative plural. And guess what? Men is what gender? Masculine. So whenever you're doing something, guys, I want to go ahead and tell you guys this. I think I said this a little bit today in class, but whenever you're doing a noun, any kind of noun that has any kind of adjective with it, don't just do the case and number, like nominative plural, accusative singular, dative plural. Like, don't just do that. Make sure you specify what gender you're dealing with. You don't have to do that all the time, but when you're dealing with adjectives, that's very important. Because, for example, if you want to make something good, you have to choose the correct form of that adjective to go with the gender of the thing that you want to describe as good. You can't just use whatever gender ending you want. You just got to use the same. You got to use the same gender as the noun that's being described. Okay, comes very much into play with pain words. Just be very ready for that. Okay, comes into play with everything, but just be ready for the. Why did I talk about something negative? I shouldn't have done that. Forget what I just said. Love you guys. All right, so here we go. Next one. Where are we at? I forget. Where are we at? I hope you guys are doing all right. Take a second. Okay, good. All right, armed men, direct object. All right, accusative plural, masculine. To walk, can you do anything to an infinitive? Nope. But you know the word for to walk. First principal part is ambulo. Second principal part is ambulara. Guess what? Ambulara is the infinitive. So you can even just write that just to make sure that you don't, lose it as you go and do the other phrases, because you're so freaking smart, you know how to do the other phrases. But you can't do everything all at the same time. Only God can do that, okay? So with the deserter, you're only going to be able to use one preposition to specify with, all right? And you can specify it out loud.
Varsity boys golf is dismissed. Again, varsity boys golf is dismissed.
You can specify it out loud by writing down cum. You learned cum, that means with. But do you have to write cum down? I wonder if anybody's following what I'm saying here. Cum takes what case? Cum plus the ablative. It takes the ablative. So deserter is going to be ablative singular regardless. I wonder if anybody gets what I'm saying right now. You don't have to write cum down because with is an ablative trigger word. All right? I am just letting you guys know right now, it's always helpful to write it down. But you don't have to. You could just put deserter in the ablative, and that would work just like if you put something in the genitive, you're going to start it with of the. All right, it's the same thing. With is one of the trigger words of the ablative, so you can just do it like that. But I would encourage you guys to write cum for now, and then once you get more professional with it, you just write quicker, and you're just like, oh, it's in the ablative, it can mean with, so I don't have to write cum. It's gonna be sweet when we start to get to that point where you guys are just writing sentences in Latin. That's crazy. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. It's gonna be mad tight. I'm so stoked. Y'all are great students. All right, so here we go. To the camp. Remember, walk to the camp. So this is that directional to. So what's the preposition that is the directional to, towards, or at? All right, that is odd. Don't say add, odd. All right? Odd. And remember, odd takes odd plus the accusative. Odd only takes the accusative. Only ever takes the accusative. All right? And so camp here has to be accusative, and you guys know that camp, the word camp is plural. The word camp is plural. All right? So it has to be plural. And then of Pyrrhus, that's a guy's name, but you can tell what set of endings his name takes. His name takes us, e, o, o. So we need it to be possessive. What's the possessive case? The genitive. All right, it's just one guy, so singular. All right, so how would we make him not nominative, but instead genitive? You just use the genitive ending. All right? So it would be Pyrrhi now. So the whole sentence now, I'm just going to say it. Actually, yeah, I'm just going to say it. Okay? No, I'm not. I'm going to write it. Okay. Fabricius. All right, subject now. Nominative singular, ending just stays the same. All right, orders. This is the verb. Where does it go? All right, the infinitive of to order is eubeira. All right, so that's where we get all of our stems from our verbs. So eubeira is where we're going to get our stem from. You get the stem by knocking off the re, but Fabricius is a what? Pronoun-wise. All right, don't worry, you're not going to offend him. He's a he. So you bet, and remember that makeron's not there for that, for the third person. Heck yeah. All right. Fabricius orders, and we got the verb there. That's the actual verb of the sentence. All right? Infinitives are never the actual verb of the sentence. They complement the actual verb. All right? You bet needs an infinitive to be somewhere else in the sentence. All right, so Fabricius orders, we can put the period there because we're done. That's where the sentence is going to be over, is where that verb is. All right? Armed men, let's go ahead and put that next to Fabricius, okay? So men has to be accusative plural. Men is masculine, so masculine, accusative plural. All right? And what set of endings does men take? It takes R-E-O-M-O, E-orum, is, os, is. So which one is accusative plural? Os. All right? So this one's going to be Fabricius, Viros, and then look, Armatus needs to take a masculine accusative plural ending, and Armatus takes us E-O-M-O endings for its masculine. That's why you learned Armatus. Armatus. It takes us E-O-M-O. And so it also needs to have a masculine accusative plural ending. That's why I drew the arrow to it. And that is still os. So it's going to be Viros, Armatos. All right? And then we have to walk. Let's just go and put it right there. Because guys, as long as that verb is at the end, I don't care where anything else goes. Yada, 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 yeehaw. All right? To walk. Look, ambulare, you already wrote it down. You don't even need to think about it anymore because you were doing other stuff and you had it written down. Let's go, dude. All right? Ambulara. Sick. All right? With the deserter. Ooh. Okay, so cum. You wrote that down, so you got it. What was the word for deserter? You learned it from just doing the reading with it. So you learned it just by association. It's profuga, profugai. It's actually feminine. All right? No offense. All right, so with the deserter, the word is profuga, but how do we make it take the ablative? Cum plus the ablative. All you gotta do is put a macron over the A. Ah. Ablative. Cum plus the ablative. All right? To the camp. We wrote down what the preposition was for to, so we can just go ahead and assume that we're G's, because we are, dude. All right, to the camp. You said a camp has to be accusative plural. And remember, camp is neuter. So what are your neuter plural endings? A, orum, is, a, is. So which one do you need? You need the accusative. Nominative, genitive, dative, accusative. So the fourth one down. A, orum, is, a. So there you go. Ad castra. All right? And then of Pyrrhus, remember, we kind of already did this one. I kind of already cheated our way through this. But he's got to be genitive singular. He takes these endings. Pyrrhus, Pyrrhi. That's the genitive. Bang. Bang, dude. Bang. Do you guys see how dope it is that you can do that? Because you can do that. You might need some help, some advice, some guidance, but you can do that. All right? Chapter 4, dude. Chapter 4. We're only on chapter 4. Look at what y'all are doing. That's so tight. I'm going to make this video. I'm going to send this video. I'm going to make another one, okay? And if you want to watch the other ones, you can. They're much simpler than this. Okay, good job, y'all. Y'all are doing great. Y'all are doing fantastic. Proud of y'all.